Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric on our long-running series, the Unported Playlist, where I take a look at my favorite unported arcade games of all time. And today we're taking a look at Vendetta, released in 1991 by Konami. Technically this has been ported to the arcade archives, but one, it's laggy, and two, it suffers from a lot of censorship cuts, so I consider the arcade original the only true way to play this game. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. We'll start off with Sledge here, but that's definitely Hulk Hogan in the game. I'm surprised he didn't sue because that is definitely the Hulkster. But right off the top, this is exactly what you're expecting it to be. It's a beat 'em up from Konami. I would not say this is the best beat 'em up Konami ever made, but it is so much fun, it's so quirky and so weird that it's definitely up there for me. But if you played one beat 'em up, you played them all, you understand the mechanics completely. You move up and down, left and right on the screen, and you beat up your opponents. The nice thing about Vendetta that I like is that you can actually just abuse your opponent on the ground. You can kick them, you can stomp on them, you can basically almost stun lock them as they sit there, which is a nice addition to the formula. And we definitely get a lot of nice weapons and everything as well. Although I would say the wind-up time on the weapons can be a little bit hard to get used to at the start. That baseball bat, when you have it, has a long wind-up, and you're probably going to get punched directly in the teeth when you're trying to swing it. Moving on to a different character here. There's not one character that I love. They all have their own strengths and weaknesses, pluses and minuses, and I've never really been able to settle on one. But you'll see here as I wind up that bat, I take a fist right to the chops. And that's the problem with the weapons and why I don't use them that often. But if you do get an enemy into kind of like a stagger pattern with the bat, you'll see that later, it can become quite easy to defeat them. So it's something that works really well and not at all at the same time. But I do love the bosses here. This guy's just holding a concrete cutter. It's like what I'm assuming it is. I'm not in construction. And he's got that leather jacket with the studs and the shoulder pads. This definitely has like an 80s kind of punk vibe, almost the Warriors to it. And considering it came out in 91, that makes a lot of sense. But it's just so much fun to play this game, and I love all these little story sequences after you clear a stage. The colors are great, the graphics are great, everything is fun, and a lot of the characters you fight are quite weird. You will see some of the weirder ones that were censored in later editions coming up soon. But you get these barrels here as well. You can hurt yourself with your own weapons. Throw that barrel, it bounces off the edge of the screen and rolls back towards you. You are going to take damage, which is a really weird thing in a beat 'em up that your weapons hurt you, but I kind of actually like it because it makes sense that that barrel just doesn't completely go through you. And you'll see there one of those red leather pants wearing Eddie Murphy lookalikes vomited when we punched him in the stomach. Some of the enemies will vomit, and you can also kick them in the you-know-whats, and they will hold their groin and suffer from that consequence. So there's a lot of fun animations in the game. The developers at Konami and the artists definitely wanted to make this a unique experience, and it shows. I also love the backgrounds as well. It looks like New York City at sunset, and we're fighting on this construction scaffolding. It really just sets a time and place, and those colors are so vibrant. And we go on to the boss of this stage, Missing Link. I love that he gets transported into the arena by a forklift and busts out of this crate almost like he's a chained up animal. And that purple on the wall, Konami loved using these really vibrant colors, and the yellow on the shirt is almost like Skittles yellow. They just had such vibrant colors, and I've always liked that about Konami. It's always been a good look to my kind of sensibilities as to what I like, and I just love that Missing Link here. His tongue is just completely cleared out of his mouth and he is knocked out. Now getting on to the next stage though, stage 3, this is why I put this on Unported Playlist. Not only is the port kind of laggy and I have trouble pulling off moves, but they did take some of the enemies out of the game. Now, I'm not going to sit here and answer whether or not that was a good idea. I just want to talk about the game as it exists and what you were missing from it. You can decide if it's for you or not. And these leather daddies come in here and they've got a very particular attack pattern, and this is some of what was pulled out of the port, and that's why I recommend playing this version, but honestly it's more for the lag. And I love in the foreground as well, you have these spectators on the street just looking at the fight. Kind of looks like they're just eating popcorn or something. It's a small detail, but it's amazing. Same thing with the bar in the background. You can see people sitting there having drinks. And some of the sprite work, I believed, for the Dominatrix was changed as well. So it's just one of those things. If you're going to play one version of this game and get it complete, I recommend you play the arcade version only. But you'll see here, once we get inside to this bodega, it just has all that New York City vibe to it. Now, I don't know if this is supposed to happen in New York City, it's just how I see the game. But you'll see again, when I talked about the weapons earlier, if you use them correctly, you can just do this. knock them into the wall over and over. But I've talked for 5 minutes, so I haven't given you a chance to listen to the soundtrack. It's spectacular, so enjoy it for like a minute, and I'll come back and talk more about why I love Vendetta. But enjoy! Just absolutely love the soundtrack. It's Konami classic through and through. Now, if you're in the US and you played this game in arcade, you're going to know it as Crime Fighters 2, because it's technically a sequel to Crime Fighters, but it's also designed to stand on its own as its own game. And then after this game comes out, there's also Violent Storm, a video that I've done before in the past. I'll leave a link below if I remember. And it's kind of a trilogy of these beating up the bad guy games in beat-em-ups, not something like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or The Simpsons, but this gritty kind of street crime vibe going on. But it is interesting that it's both a sequel and its own game in Japan, where it's known as Vendetta, the version we're playing now. And I love this guy in his purple duster with that shotgun. Now, if there's one thing I don't like, and it's just a personal thing, I hate beating up dogs in beat-em-ups. The poor dog did nothing wrong. I hate hearing the sound effects of it yelping. So I wish that they didn't do that, but that's just me. I mean, it's probably just a complaint that I make and I make alone. But I love that we're down at the docks now. It's got every single classic city trope to it. It's got the construction site, it's got the slums, it's got the docks. All the places that you would think in your imagination that maybe crime would occur, where in reality it probably occurs in high-rise office buildings just as much. But every once in a while you get something really strange, like this dude with the rising sun flag on his shirt, jumping out of the water in flippers with a trident. I don't get it, it doesn't make any sense, but damn do I love it. And he's animated so nicely when he puts his hand up and pulls himself out of the water. There's a lot of detail put into an enemy that you basically just see once on one level. And while there are the enemies that are going to be everywhere, like that red leather Eddie Murphy pant guy right there, there are enemies unique to each stage as well, and that's great from just a seeing something new standpoint. Because a lot of these videos where they are beat 'em ups, I talk about how by the end of the game I feel like I'm getting a little bit bored, and I never get that sense with Vendetta because the stages are so unique and the enemies inside of them are unique as well. It feels slightly different. Now the dog got his revenge on me there. I'm not going to say what he's doing, but he definitely got the revenge for me kicking him, but unfortunately I'm going to have to do it just a little bit more. But you will see that you can stack enemies and hit 2 at once, and that becomes a strategy on harder difficulties to kind of clear your way through, because the bosses here don't have as much of a stun lock versus some of the other Konami arcade games where you can really just get the boss in a pattern they can't recover from. And of course, it's a beat 'em up, there has to be an elevator. That's beat 'em up 101 law. It's like the first constitutional amendment of beat 'em ups. Must have elevator. And this one's particularly good with cactuses being rained down on you. If there's one complaint I would make about this game is it is pretty cheap. Now granted, I'm not putting quarters in it, so it doesn't really matter, but if you were pumping money into this game to beat it at normal difficulty like I am here, you would have probably spent about $30 to see the ending, which is a lot of money if you're paying 50 cents. It loves beating you up, it loves staggering you, and it loves just taking your quarters away. It's not the cheapest game I've ever played, but it's getting slightly up there. But I love the graffiti on the wall, I love that skull and crossbones with the punk hair. This game has personality in spades. It is probably one of my favorite games to play from just a pure spectacle standpoint. And you even have a host of stray cats that run out of the boss's room when you knock that door down. I don't know what the cats are all about. There's no reason for them to be there, but the fact that they are is just another fun addition to the game. But taking a look at Faust here, he's kind of like a Macho Man standard, or at least I see a little Macho Man in him with a little Legion of Doom mix in as well. I haven't watched wrestling in over 2 decades, but I still remember loving it as a kid, and he's a great final villain. Although if you think the game ends here, you are sorely mistaken, as there is one stage beyond this that might be the cheapest, cruelest final stage in any arcade game I've ever played. It's a lot of fun to play when you're not using quarters, but if you're using quarters, avoid it at all costs. Well, in reality, it's a lot of fun, and it's how you see the true ending to the game. But yeah, that's Vendetta. Technically it's been ported, but the port is laggy and it has censorship, so for me, the arcade original Japanese ROM is the way to play. I'll be back next week with another episode of Unported Playlist. I'll have videos throughout the week as well, but as Faust here tries to gun me down, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, that notification bell definitely helps us out. He's dead, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.